This isn't a podcast on labeling product marketing. This is a podcast for product marketing managers who feel misunderstood internally.
Because building slide decks and writing copy is not all that we do.
So are today's product marketers actually marketers? Welcome to the final episode of We're Not Marketers. This for the final time you're hearing from Zach Roberts, the sales water boy, passing it over to Eric.
Yeah, the Franken marketer. This is the last time you get to hear this salty, silky voice on the pod. Gab, what's up, man?
This is also the last time that I'm going to do sales deck. So Gab Visual, sales deck intern. But yeah.
So we got a special episode for everybody here. From the past season, we came in pretty hot on that. But when you hear the episode, We're Not Marketers. Okay, why do we call it that? Why do we call it that? We're trying to figure out our product marketers are actually marketers. And in this conversation, we're going to get that answer today. We're going to show you the polls of what individuals have said across LinkedIn. You're going to hear our take. And better yet, even though we say we're not marketers, what a lot of people don't know about this podcast is that a lot of product marketing was used to build it. And we're going to take some time to give you a behind the scenes look of what that looked like. Because whether or not you are a solo product marketer in B2B SaaS or you are part of a product marketing team, when you think of product marketing, it does get lost in the vanity metrics and the elusive term of go to market. So let's see what those fundamentals look like. And maybe, does it resonate? Do you apply? Let's take it from there. Yo, we've got this question a few times, guys. How did we meet? Because I think it was a LinkedIn message, a post. How did it happen?
So I can maybe shine a bit of light into this, but from what I remember is Eric started like commenting my post and just writing like boost and like,
Really deep comments I was leaving on it. A lot of depth.
yeah, boost. I was like, okay, cool. I don't know what that word means, but I'm going to run with it.
And this was before AI generated comments, so you knew it was really him writing it.
Yeah, it's
exactly. I think the timing was around like June, July, maybe before that of last year.
Yep.
So June, July 2023. And I don't know. I saw Eric that you were doing posts on like kicks and stuff, and I just wrote to him, and I said, "Hey man, it would be cool to chat." And we talk, and it was a pretty productive chat, and I really felt like a really similar vibe, same age, same kind of similar background and stuff like that. And then what we did is, I don't know if you remember, Eric, but we did an actual messaging review together.
Yep.
When we were looking into, I think I don't remember the solution I did, but you did user evidence. Yeah. And we just went to, I would change this, and then we're just rambling on it. And I think that would be cool to incorporate an idea for, I don't know, a segment of videos or whatever. But then I also tried to connect with Zach. And Zach, I think you choked on me once because you didn't see the the meeting or whatever. I don't remember. Maybe we can check the conversation, but it's fine. It's fine.
I'm bad. Sometimes I'm really bad with responding, y'all. Oh, look at a message. I'll respond to it later.
Wait, I haven't heard this story either. So Gab, you reached out to Zach and was like, "You want to do a pod?" And then he Heisman'd your ass. He's like, "Yo, I ain't got time."
No,
I ain't got time for you right now.
It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that.
No, there's a little. It's not exactly like that. What happened is, I was like, okay, so I chatted with a PMM in a startup, really similar situation than me, that interact with my post. And Zach has been reaching out a few times. Like I wrote a post and he said, I really like this. And it was hyper relevant to him because he just started a role as a founding PMM, Zach, in a startup early stage. So I was writing all of that stuff. We connected, we chatted in the DMs, and I said, let's meet, let's chat, let's just network as we should.
Yeah.
And then you choked me, and then you said, sorry, I missed it, whatever. Can we redo it? I think the next day, like it was a really short window of time. And we met. And then like during the call, I remember I said, hey, I would like maybe to introduce you to a guy. I feel like we're very similar vibes, like the three of us. So let's have a chat and whatever. And I don't think I even talked about the pod. I just said, I did like with Eric, which was like the website or homepage messaging a review. So then we met. You just got laid off. And we started like chatting about, I don't know what I want to do with you guys. I feel like it's just a bunch of engagement on LinkedIn around the same subject. And yeah, I like to just say that product marketing because it sounds good and it's easy. But that's basically the story about this.
Yeah.
Oh, and also one other note too. So when he's like, hey, you want to do this with this guy named Zach? I already knew Zach. I was
we already knew each other.
I
We
was
saw each.
sleuthing him. I was sleuthing him when he was at Dropbox, right? I was a Dropbox competitor for the content side, and I just saw this young lad killing it in the PMA world and said, follow. And that was pretty cool to circle it back. And then obviously not even being with either of those companies. And it was an easy yes from me because, like you said, Gab, we had a very similar point of view. Brought Zach in, it all made sense, and now we got the 3 p.m. misfits here.
So we decided a podcast on product marketing, but then we decided to call it We're Not Marketers. I'm curious, from a messaging positioning standpoint, how come we just couldn't call it We're Product Marketers? That'd been the same thing, right?
I think, yeah, it's a good point. I think if I remember correctly, the first idea was actually the name of the consultancy I started.
Yes.
So I think it was press X to PMM or something like that. And then it became press X to market. And this is what I use. But from a product marketing standpoint, it was not relevant enough. So then we just started listing a bunch of names. And I think, Eric, you wrote 5 in a row and you wrote We're Not Marketers, because during those initial conversations where we're just thinking of, it was becoming more like a room where we're able together to just vent on our jobs and challenges and stuff. And one of it was, Eric, you said, right now I'm doing the role of a head of marketers and I'm a PMM, which doesn't make sense at all. And this kind of sparked the idea of you should not do those tasks. And I was doing the same as well. So we just decided to take that POV, we're not marketers. And I think we also saw some trend of PMA that ask product marketers for their hot take. And one of them was, we're not actually marketers. So it was just a way of, hey, let's test this out. And the next step is the post, as we know.
Oh yeah, that post that's on our website. That kicked it off. The post that started it all.
Yeah, and I think too, it was we had all these strong feelings and emotions and conversations we had. But to boil it down to those 3 words of we're not marketers, that was the exercise. And I think, like you said earlier, it was that POV. And that's what influenced the title. And then even the weird skeleton graphics that you see on every single thing. And I think that's
exactly. The skeletons have nothing to do with marketing. I'm like, people were asking us about that. They're like, yo, why you got skulls by your names on LinkedIn?
We're dead inside because we're not marketers. Exactly. Everyone keeps saying, give me leads.
So if
churn out one.
If you're a PMM listening and you feel that you're dead inside as well, just put a skull next to your last name on LinkedIn.
And do what we're not doing right now. Don't give any context of it. If people ask you, say, exactly. That's just how I feel.
Exactly. This is a messaging 101. Don't give any context and expect people to click on yourself.
And I think it's why we going with that.
And then put AI powered next to your name too. So.
AI powered marketer.
And then see your ROI 10x and your lead explode and becoming a $1 billion company bigger than Apple, because this is how startup growth work.
Just don't even put your job title on there. Just say AI powered.
Yeah.
10x ROI.
Hey, and you know what I really liked too? And we obviously took a chance on this when we went with this POV and made this all about we're not marketers and elevating what the whole conversation of a product marketer is. It was are we going to resonate with anyone else? Does anyone else feel like this? Or is this just 3 weirdos in their own silo chatting on a pod? And I think it was a gutsy way to go. And we've had enough conversations with other product marketers, so I think we had enough of a gauge about it. But to just go out there with that conviction and see the response, right? You see the results from a data perspective. But when you just look at even the conversations we've had on the side with people, I think it's huge. That's why we did this. We didn't just do it to do it. We did it so people could have those conversations, hopefully change the narrative. And I think we've seen that after a season of this.
I don't think it's a situation of just taking a leap of faith. Yes, we took risk. We need risk in order to reap the rewards. But I think it's more around we were convinced of that point of view. So we did an echo chamber to see what was happening, and we did the post like 4 months ago now, starting by product marketers or non-marketers. And we wrote, I know it has marketer in the title, but hear me out. And I explained the mix between enablement and strategy, and we got a lot of reaction on this. 92 comments, 9 reposts, 340 like likes and reactions. This is still one of my biggest posts I did, but this just gave us like put the pedal to the metal. Like,
Yes.
you need to focus on this because you're not the only one having that point of view, and everyone can have a point of view. If it's not backed by anything, you don't know what you're doing. So
Yeah.
we knew, okay, we have a validation. Let's go all in. Let's focus on this. Let's push it.
Let's take a step back about like point of view and like why that's relevant right now. There's two things I want to say is that I remember I saw a post from Devin Reed a while back talking about content strategy relevant to point of view. Is that if your thought leadership point of view is not bold enough, it's not sufficient to influence the conversation, to change how people think and act about a topic. But at the same time, it needs to be relatable enough that your audience will understand. And then to give you an example behind that is that like when I was in sales, like when it was like my first role, I was a BDR at LinkedIn. And if anyone's been a BDR, you talk to a BDR, you're trying to grab someone's attention, like a prospect's attention within a few seconds, either email or a call. And you're like, I want to get your attention long enough to have you on a conversation to talk to you about a problem and a product because I want to hit quota. And that was like my crash course. I didn't know it back then, crash course into product marketing, because as like a BDR, you're not going to sit there and say, hey, here's our product, but you're going to sit there and say, it's like, hey, like if I was talking to someone in healthcare in like relation to LinkedIn at the time, it's that, okay, hey, like when's the last time you used LinkedIn to find your last candidate? And the meaning behind that is what I'm communicating implicitly in that example is that, okay, you may be using paper applications, maybe going to job fairs, but you can use LinkedIn to find your next candidate. And it's relatable because it's related to hiring, but it's different because I'm telling you at the time, 2014, 2015, that LinkedIn, a social media platform that was only used mainly for networking and sharing job updates, this can be an avenue too for you to find a candidate too. And that's what I think was really compelling about this. Like Eric, the point you said here around like when we said we're not marketers, it was a little bit of a leap of faith. But then Gab, to your point here, it was very methodical because it was different from what other people were saying, going back to that positioning piece. But also it was very relatable because the example being, Eric, if you're a head of marketer, your roles and responsibilities have expanded, but not only to product marketing, but then you're having leaders like, hey, where are the leads? Hey, build out this like one pager. You lose the focus of product marketing, and then you get confused as to what is product marketing. Mm-hmm. You ask any product marketer on LinkedIn, they'll have a general consensus, but different point of views. And I think this what's been unique about our podcast so far is that those point of views, there's no right or wrong. It's based on the experiences that we see so far. We've been talking a lot about product marketing, and earlier we mentioned the skeletons. Skeletons has nothing to do with product marketing, or does it? Because let's introduce a new variable, brand marketing. We're 3 guys on a podcast talking about product marketing, and you have skeletons on your podcast. Is this related to positioning? Is this related to branding? I'm curious what you guys' take on this.
I think I want to hear from Gab because we did have completely 2 different point of views coming out of this. And Zach, I'm not even sure if I know what your like full point of view is when we were all developing. What are we going to do other than just this name, right? We have its name, but how do we stand out? There's all these other podcasts, there's all these other things to do on LinkedIn, right? Because that was going to be our main channel that we identified to get our message out.
Yes.
And one, I think I'll just be honest to everyone. I am a big fan of Liquid Death, regardless of what they do. They do no wrong to me. So I think there was some major influence there. But as we talked, there's all these hurt feelings about how things have happened as a product marketer, layoffs obviously being a big one of them, and a lack of understanding of the value we bring. So I naturally went to we all feel like we're all dead inside. And what's more dead than a skeleton, right? So I think it was cool to be able to think, how do we not just put our faces on every single episode? We don't even have our faces on anything, if you've noticed that. It's quite different than anything else you see. And even now that I'm Klue and working with a full-on brand team, which is super sick, the head of that actually mentioned that he has never seen an AI generated podcast thing. So it completely looks different, feels different, and even gave us an opportunity to make some cool swag
Cool
out of it.
swag.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I thought it was just from that point of view, clearly like we have to cut through the noise. So that was what I
Exactly.
proposed. So Gab, I want to hear your point of view.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if I remember correctly, we were like, okay, let's do a pod. Zach, you started. We know that you're a guy that works well with number when you came up with a row of KPIs I never seen before from the get go. Like, it's still an idea. And he's like, okay, so we need that amount of unique listeners, that number of reviews. And I was like, okay, we know that we're going to measure success here. But then I think it was, we did our positioning. Are we against marketing? Are we against like founders ultimately, like bad founders or whatever? And I know we're still like understanding that we needed positioning, we needed messaging. So we did that first. We understood like our value prop, we understood how we're feeling. And then later on was the visual, if I remember. And my first reaction was, this feels too much like Liquid Death. I don't like it. But we're a team, right? So it's all about accepting
He
ideas,
hated it.
understanding where
Redaction.
it
He
goes.
hated it. He hated it.
TLDR, I hated
He
it.
was like, we need a new third podcast member, Zach.
I didn't hate it, but I was like, we just talk about Liquid Death, and it feels like Liquid Death is launching a podcast. That was my kind of initial reaction. But then Zach loved it, Eric loved it, and I said, I'm not the best person to talk brand or design. I'm colorblind. I have very difficulty wearing clothes that fits. Like my girlfriend, like once a week, she said, "Are you seeing people today, or you're working from home because this doesn't fit at all?" I'm like, "Yeah, but who cares? I'm just having calls." So yeah, I'm really not a good source. So I just decided to take the backseat and be, all right, I'm going trusting this because this is differentiated. I cannot say this looks like everyone else. It's just not my taste. But then, like immediately when we took that route, I started loving it. I was like, hey, I was wrong 100%. I like this. People are digging it. That's why your personal point of view should not play that much of a role when you're in the team.
And what's really cool with what both of you are saying so far is that I want to take a page out of what Jason said in our first conversation when he explained like the 4 principles of product marketing within B2B SaaS. And this is no different than how we built the podcast today. Is that first, like earlier, we were talking a bit about our audience. We're like, okay, we want to talk to product marketers. Okay. If you look at a lot of companies, if you ask them, say, who's our target audience? They will say anyone who does X. And that's not specific enough. So we were like, okay, we want to talk product markets. How can we get a level deeper? Okay, like we all work in an industry within B2B SaaS. And it was like, great. And that's what Eric said here earlier is that like, when you're at a startup or if you're like the first product marketer, not too many people know what a product marketer does. So you may be getting these catch-all asks. Whereas this is different if you're like a salesperson. If you hire a salesperson, you have a pretty clear idea what a salesperson does. If you hire someone in finance, you have a clear idea. But product marketing is like the odd duck in the room where we don't know why you're here, but since you are here, you want to help us with this pitch deck. So knowing that feeling of feeling misunderstood, that really set the stage of our positioning here. That next piece of, okay, like we're a podcast for product marketers, as Gab said in the post earlier. We are a podcast for product marketers in B2B SaaS who feel misunderstood in what they do. A lot of if you check out a lot of the product marketing podcasts out there, like I can bet that not many are talking about that conversation. So I would have made it more unique. that's what layered in when you look at the skeletons. When you see, you're like, why the hell do they have skeletons? Why the hell are they talking about memes on their company page, which we're gonna talk about in a few minutes, because there is a method to our madness. The last two pieces here, I'm going to go over really quick and we'll talk in more detail, but it's like when we launched the podcast too. So when we did launch it, we didn't just put the podcast on LinkedIn and say, hey, here's our podcast. We had teasers. We were having fun with it. And then lastly, like the enablement piece, hey, how did we get people to listen to the podcast? Some podcasts out there will just launch the episode, say, hey, we have a new episode. But going back to the conversation earlier, as if you're a sales rep, if you're like a BDR, that you can't sell a product if you can't get the first person onto a call. So if you can't get the person onto the call, like, how can I grab your attention for 10 seconds? And that was no different for our podcast. We took clips, we took memes. It's because if we can get you interested in what you're seeing here, how can we get you a little bit closer to the episode? So that was what I just wanted to share right there. I think it's just really cool how we broke it down.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we don't want to underestimate is the resource management, right? Like, a good product marketer knows what they can allocate and what they just can't do when we're trying to pull off a launch. And I think we did a really nice job of being able to balance 3 lives before having to go to South America, before having a kid, before moving to San Diego. That was also a really cool, I think, use of our product marketing skills there that should not be underlooked at this point, reaching the end of season 1.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also, at first, I think something that I was cared about is how are we going to balance that with day jobs, with family time and all of this. And it was so, and I hate using that word, but it was so, I'll use a different word. It was so easy. It was so simple. I was about to say streamlined, not seamless.
I'm heartbroken.
I'll need a personal torture chamber on messaging.
I am heartbroken. Oh, Gab, this was such a great Saturday. I feel heart. I really do. Not even broken. There's just a spear. Just, God. But
a state-of-the-art spear.
I agree with you. I'm gonna make this two out of 3 misfits that said I think this was easy, and it was because everything we did was fun. Like, we weren't trying to force all of these things that we didn't like to do into our lives, right? It was like, okay, after hours, after work, while trying to find other work, we were able to put all of these things together, make all this time, make all this a little bit of noise. I wouldn't say all this, a little bit of noise, and I think provide some really good value just by having some fun. I agree. It was easy.
Yeah. I'm just gonna add that really quick. I think it's 3 out of 3. Like, it was easy because 2 things. 1, we were having fun, and 2, we had a very clear focus. We knew that we couldn't do everything. Where we're 3 guys, we don't got VC funding. We don't have any, like, no one throwing us up.
Not yet.
My dad gave me $20 the next day, so I guess we can count it as a VC fund company.
So
Dad gave $20.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'll be able to pay for a part of your gas.
Yes, first month of Descript.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the 3 guys who have a Descript Squadcast subscription, and that was it. And so I think that was like, and when you think a lot about like marketing, you don't get a lot of resources. Product marketing, that's in the same sense. So, and Gab, you mentioned earlier, like when we had the conversation, we had KPIs. Behind the scenes, yeah, we did have KPIs. We measured, okay, like how many unique listeners can we get? Like how many downloads can we look at? What else can we look at? Can we look at ratings? Can we look at reviews? And that gave us like a framework to know like what we can do and what we can't do. We knew we couldn't be on Twitter. We knew we couldn't be on TikTok. There is a TikTok page, just don't look at it. But I think we couldn't be everywhere. So that's why we chose LinkedIn. We chose LinkedIn because we know our audience lives on LinkedIn. It's more relevant on LinkedIn. Hell, like, it's going to stand out. If you see 3 skeletons on LinkedIn, You're gonna do a double take. If you saw 3 skeletons on Instagram, you'd probably call the FBI. But that's my take.
It's also 3 fun skeletons. It's not like
Yeah,
we're just putting skulls or skeleton. It's also they're doing activities like they're doing bouldering. They are hiking up a mountain. They are like
Sitting by a
sitting down.
campfire.
they're sitting around a campfire.
Sitting around a campfire,
Exactly.
right, Colin? And our boy Zach Messler, right? We all had a little something in our glass in that one.
Mini yerba mate.
And that was also, and that's another thing. That was also really fun, right? Like just to be able to use Dolly to its max capabilities, making skeleton art. But it was really fun, and I always got so excited as the go-to Dolly guy to get something and send it to you guys and just hear, what do you think? What should we use? How should we do next week's visuals? And I do think it was just, again, back to the easy comment. If you're thinking about doing a podcast, grab a few of your friends or people you've never even met before who have a common point of view, and just go ahead and do it. If you're thinking about it, do it. But make sure it's fun, and we're pretty sure you'll succeed at this point.
Yes. In a world where everyone's talking about content and using content as a way to engage your audiences, I think from what I've learned so far, having a podcast, this is like the second one I've worked on personally, is that it can be a really cool channel of getting new ideas, getting different content. Aside from the podcast yourself, like I said a few minutes ago, we're going to tell you why we're using memes. We're using memes that repurpose topics we discussed in the podcast or pain points that we knew our audiences resonated with. So, like, why the hell was Dora the Explorer or Star Wars or what else did we use? I'm getting lost.
We did 12 days, right? We did
12 days,
Valentine's
yes,
cards.
Yes.
And if you remember, do you guys remember what our topic was for the month of December? Like, it was a strict content. Every time that I posted something in the month of December, it was related to one topic. Do you remember what it was?
Was it Christmas? The holidays?
No.
Is it about AI?
Was it about leads?
Yep, Zach. Yeah. We all had this very common frustration, right? Being built around product marketing shouldn't be about leads. So although we didn't continue beating the hammer into January and February, we spent that first month just leads.
Yeah, it was a very broken record.
And you saw what was happening. You saw we kept seeing the growth. We got a nice little announcement, got a big boost of growth, and then kept the memes going, just switching up which topic it was.
And
yeah,
it's also
it got attention.
Like if you're doing memes about lead gen, we have an episode where we just talk about lead gen. Same for sales enablement and stuff like that. Like it's those pains are becoming a way to laugh about it and ultimately showing you that we're digging this subject down later in the pod.
Yeah. And it was, I think, two things. It was that one, like I said, it grabbed attention. And second, it was a really similar to, Gab, what you said here earlier with our first post. It was a good gauge of us getting feedback on what people resonated with. Because if we knew that if I put a post about Lion King and positioned it from the relation around a founding product marketer who just started a role and seeing all these elephant graveyard side of like layoff, crappy messaging, not knowing your job, and you resonated with that, it was like, okay, we're on the right track. And I think that's that's one way that you could use humor and use content to engage your audience and learn a bit more about what they care about.
Yeah, and I do want to make a note. It just actually came to mind. I think there was a slight advantage to that too, right? Not everyone can just come out with humor, especially if you're not branded around that, right? If for some reason you're super serious, probably
which we are not.
Yeah, right. Imagine
if the IRS dropped a meme on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So, for example, I think some people loved it, some people didn't. But like we saw the one perfect example: President Biden dropped a meme with the eyes, and it was like, wait a second, I'm confused. Right now, if he would have done that every single day for the last 5 or 6 weeks, now we've got a branding situation, right? But if you just do that once, it doesn't land. But we have been consistently on Saturdays and Sundays. We'll send a meme in the channel and say, guys, does this work? Like we make sure it's consistent. And I think because we have chosen to be that shield for other product marketers. I'm not going to name any names, but you guys know a few people at least who've messaged us and been, oh, that's good, but I don't want to like it because my boss might see it.
Because I don't want my boss to see it.
Right? Like we are taking that, and I'll even say it's nice to be able to slap on my "We're Not Marketers" title on LinkedIn and make a comment and be like, "Oh yeah, you don't know who it is."
It could be one of those three,
but
or it could be an intern.
Like we've used humor to, like you said, to be real, to have the conversations that people are struggling to have but they will relate with. And I think us doing on a consistent basis and being willing to have those conversations instead of just having them stuck in our heads as anxiety, it's given people an outlet to at least say, I'm not alone, and hey, that was pretty funny.
And that's a good point you bring up, Eric, too, is that I think that's something like a lot of us miss in product marketing is the consistency. I think consistency is a lot easier when you have a consistent message built on it. One challenge I see in some of the roles I've done is that where you'll be in the organization and they want to say everything about the product. They want to say, oh, we do this and we do this and we do this. And then what happens is that for someone who's first learning about the product, they may get overwhelmed. Imagine going to a gym the first time and you've never worked out before. And someone comes in and says, oh, try this bench press, go do this deadlift, oh, do these bar curls. You're going to be like, I don't know where to start. Give me a step-by-step. And I think that's what's really cool about this podcast is that, Eric, to your point, we spent a month just talking about leads. Okay, sounding like a broken record intuitively, like, how is that being unique? But like, when you think about like, how many times will someone see that message? Not everyone's going to see that message. Maybe people see it, they may see it over time, but they'll start building a relationship over it. And I think that was what we started seeing with the growth we've seen in such a short amount of time. Like this is going to be our 15th episode, our final episode. A lot of podcasts in B2B struggle to get past 10 episodes. How come? Because they're finding that it's really hard to be consistent. How do you come up with new topic ideas? Hey, like, I'm not seeing the numbers I haven't seen, so I'm going to quit. But you will see that with product marketing, it's an investment. You're not going to see the results, instant results over time. It has to be a consistent effort. It's like working out. You can't go to the gym one day and expect to come out looking Arnold Schwarzenegger from like Conan O'Brien. Come on now.
It's also the fact that, and I love the way you're putting it, but we're just three guys that feel the same pain than our audience, or at least felt it in the past. And we all have our different sauces. We're all from different backgrounds too. So I feel like we're just able to always bring different point of views to it. But it's also everything with our guesses. We're talking to product marketing experts. And de facto, this doesn't make us expert. But it's like, oh, this is really good. I love when this guest said this because it's helping me solve a problem, or it's helping me understanding how they dealt with that situation that I feel like a misfit because I have all of those issues or challenges or problems. And then our job basically is how can we take this, make it entertaining, make it actionable, and basically help you feel less like a misfit and have more authority or being unignorable in your role, basically.
Yes.
Dude, and I've just been, I think, after going through we're on about 4 months-ish of trying to put this all together. And Tamara actually talked about it in one of her episodes, but like finding what your superpowers are, I think we've done a very good job at leveraging those from a product marketing standpoint. But there's also been some like other things, like unique traits that we bring to the table that maybe not fit into the traditional box. And I think we've leveraged those very well while also letting our traditional superpowers shine as they should and not putting blockers in the way of that.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like the best way. So we can, what I love the most about this is I bring an idea, V1. Either you guys are like, this is good, but you should do this instead, or take that direction, giving immediate and valuable feedback. Or it's this isn't good because of X, Y, Z. So we're able to just test a lot of stuff together just by, hey, what do you think of this? I like it. I don't like it. Sometimes like I don't like the design. I voice my opinion, but I take a step back when I see that I don't know what I don't know. And ultimately this is a question about differentiation, which is more important than colors or styles or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, we've had a lot of healthy debates. I'm like, you guys, if you think we have debates on this podcast, look at our WhatsApp group. It's just like us tossing ideas out. And I think that's what's been so great working with y'all. It's like when you have fun doing what you're doing with the people you're doing it with, it shows up in the conversations. It shows up in the branding. It shows up in the product. It's very easy to see when someone's not enjoying the work they do because the quality tends to suffer.
And it's organic too. It doesn't feel like work. And it's always, okay, so I need to work on the pod this week around that time. Sometimes we take initiative and get crazy and, hey, I did this amount of editing in this amount of time. You're like, whoa, let's go, boy. But ultimately, it's ups and no, it's not even down. It's always been up. It's just that sometimes we have difficulty schedule time or whatever. Yes. I think that it's always, we like coming back to it. We like working on it. We like growing as professionals because of it. So yeah, really happy of the journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think, go for it.
No, I just want to say it came to mind. And for anyone who's out there listening who may have a little bit of influence or may have a little budget or maybe building out a team, I think this is a really good point of the value of getting another product marketer in the room with your product marketer and being able to have more than just their opinion. Because I've even seen it now. I've been at Klue for about a month, and I've had a kind of a CI actually person to even bounce things off of. And to have that kind of different perspective coming from someone who gets what you do, who truly gets what you do and is not a traditional marketer or is not even product or is not the CEO, I think is a really interesting thing to consider if you do have some extra budget or you are building out your marketing team and you need an extra head count and you're trying to figure out who that may be. I think this is really good proof of what happens when you get more PMMs on there who have different skill sets and can complement the entire go-to-market motion. All right, guys. So big question. We've had 15 episodes. 9 of them we've had guest hosts appear on. Who's your favorite guest episode of the season? And obviously, why?
Do you want to start, Zach?
Okay, I can. This one was quick for me. Thinking about it, first episode, Jason Oakley. Why I would say this too is that, yes, even though he said that product marketers are marketers, I think talking like when he was breaking down kind of the foundation of product marketing, I think that was like the first aha moment of how a lot of what we were doing was built on product marketing with building this podcast. I think the challenge, what we saw early on, is this happens to everybody, is that expert blindness. Is that when you know something intuitively, you don't think about the positioning, you don't think about messaging, you don't think about enablement. It's because the stuff that you live and breathe as a product marketer. So having that awareness gave me a lens to step back and be like, oh, okay, I'm seeing this connection. And I will argue towards the end, I'm not sure if JC will agree with this or not, but I think we did sway his opinion a little bit towards the end of the episode of product marketing markets. But I'll allow you all to re-listen to that episode and maybe be the judge of that.
Love it. Yeah, Jason was like the best first guest that we could have thought about. Really solid episode, really solid guest.
He gave us credibility.
From the get-go, Jason
shout out Oaks for sure.
Yeah, Sir Oaks. Any Pokemon fans in the building? Okay. All right.
You saw I'm right here.
I am.
So yeah, on my end, I would say that my and I'll just say this for all of our other guesses. This was not an easy decision. I love everyone. Okay. My favorite guest of the season was Tamara, because for a handful of reasons, but my eyes shined bright when she said that PMMs are not marketers. I was like, yes, finally we have a product marketing leader and expert that agree with us. So I'm not crazy. We're not crazy. It was a little bit of that kind of validation moment, but it was also the fact that there was a lot of spicy takes, like PMMs would be terrible CMOs, but she has such an amazing background and was really able to explain this is the ideal reporting structure. This is how it works on bounds. And also working with PMM Cam, she has an amazing perspective with working with a lot of product marketing leaders. And yeah, her resources that she put out there are always amazing. Like the personal positioning course is awesome. The newsletter of PMM Camp is really great. Her content is topical. So yeah, I was really excited about that episode. And I just think that it's a really good course overall for our audience to understand that spicy take, to understand where she's coming from. And it's just circling back to PMMs always different from one organization to the other, basically.
Wow. You guys picked two really good ones. And I'm actually really happy because I did pick a different one. It would have stunk if we all agreed. So this is cool. We got a little switch up here. But my favorite, and actually I'm gonna tell you why this is my favorite before I tell you who the favorite is. Right. So
do you want us to guess afterward?
Yeah, actually that would be cool. So I'm gonna tell you why, and it's based off a few things. The primary one that is my decision basing is I think the root of what we're talking about is B2B SaaS. Probably the earlier the better, because the farther you go along, the more people you have like Tamara to come in and steer the ship and make things right. The fewer of those you have, right, then the smaller your company, obviously, the more opportunity you have for the founder to take over. So that's number one. I think the fact that founders don't know product marketing is my number one thing there. Two, I think it was the spiciest episode of all of them. And three, as like a bonus, it's something that I just love. I just eat the shit out of in terms of the content. So go ahead. What's your guess on who is my favorite?
Anthony
It sounds like Anthony.
Yeah,
Anthony.
Man. He came straight up and said founders are idiots and they don't know what they're doing. And that is exactly how I feel.
I don't think he used that the exact language, though.
Hey, copy is copy. Copy is copy.
Don't put words in his mouth.
Hey, copy is copy, but message is the message. And that's what I got. And that's, at the end of the day, they know a lot and they're really good at what they do, but most founders are not good at product marketing, particularly positioning, messaging, running product launches. And I think it was really cool to get that kind of called out, and it was really spicy. The whole episode was spicy, I thought.
Yes.
All right. So, wrapping up, I think it's pretty safe to say we've got pretty healthy amount of listeners so far. So anyone who's taken their time to listen to this outrageously last minute put together podcast by a bunch of misfits who decided to get a Descript subscription, it's been awesome. I think it's just so cool to see the conversations fly. I'm checking the account all the time to see who's commenting and liking our content, and to hear and see some of these conversations either personally or you guys tossing them in the chat and us sharing them. It's just been like such an awesome 4 months of learning about people who are doing exactly what we're doing. So thanks from the Franken marketer to everyone else listening for actually spending your time on these 15 episodes.
No, yeah, I think you can say thanks for all of us, from the sales deck intern, from the, I'm talking for you, Zach, but I guess that you feel the same for the sales boy as well. So yeah, it really means a lot, and it's a really fun journey.
Yeah, I think when I think about what we build here and just kicking it with you guys the past 6-7 months, even before we started this podcast, is that it really filled my cup. And especially when last year, many of us working in tech, when it felt like a harder year of working, I think this was always something I've looked forward to in my week, when we would have a conversation about the pod, when we would be chatting about it in WhatsApp, if we had an upcoming guest, working, doing the editing, teasers. It just didn't feel like work because it was just so much fun. And where else would you, and we spoke about this before, where else would you be able to sit down and talk with individuals like Anthony, Tamara, Jason, Colin, Andy, Zach, Clara? Think I'm forgetting one more person from list. Who's the eighth? I feel terrible.
Peep's also in there. meeting some of these legends, it's been, like you said, it's been sick.
Yes.
And,
yes. And then last but not least, Madison. Yes, we had Madison on here.
Oh my,
so save the best for last.
And what I want to piggyback off that. I don't think this was definitely not in our outline, folks, but I want to call something out. Zach, you were already going through it. I went through it weeks after we launched the pod. To have what we had, I don't know what like my situation would have quite been like, not to be able to just know I could come and talk to you guys. 1, 2, have the pod every week, and 3, like when you go into and you're not doing anything, it's easy to not do anything. But for us, like we were working, right? We were putting stuff out there. Shit, I'm never going to forget the grind to get out that 12 days of Christmas, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was fun, right? Instead of all the worries that you get in your normal 9 to 5, and then when things happen, you don't have a job. If you've got something like this, who knows what happens? And now I'm at Klue, enjoying life and talking to more PMMs because it's their ICP. So it ends up turning out for us. Zach, I don't know if you want to share any of your details, but you're doing pretty well for yourself now too.
Yeah, from when we kicked this off, I kicked off my consultancy, and what's been really cool since this time is still having consistent work, like building really cool relationships from individuals, either meeting from the pod or just by hearing through it too. So it's been really fun charting out this new path of working for yourself. Who knows if I'm going to keep on doing this too, but I think what I learned from working with you all is that it further affirmed that whatever role you choose, whether if it's working for yourself or working at an organization, what's better than a paycheck is that, assuming if you're getting paid what you're worth, is doing it with working with people you really have a great time with and having fun with too. Because when you can do that, it's just going to amplify your work and the quality that you bring out too. Exactly, so that's what I got. You got for yourself here.
It has been a way of, as I said earlier, like an echo chamber. Those past few months have been like a lot of different thoughts and like introspection on my career, what makes me happy, what gives me energy. I know that I always had energy for the pod. It was never a second thought. It was always like, okay, yeah, it's part of my weekly routine, either going to the gym, walking the dog, whatever it was. Okay, yeah, let's record the pod, let's edit it, let's work on the copy, the description, all of it. So yeah, like seeing, and I felt like I needed to bring the energy with you guys, especially during those difficult times. So yeah, I'm just grateful that it worked that well and wasn't that much work. Like we put on the hour, but it doesn't feel like hour wasted, like far from it. But yeah, it's definitely something that I enjoy doing a lot and is a great memory for me.
Yeah. So do we reveal the results now of what we got?
Yeah, let's kick it over to Adam and let's discuss about those survey results.
All right, to the very last episode of We're Not Marketers. We came on here, we've had a burning question throughout every single episode, and it's time that we actually asked our guest. And we needed an unbiased MC to come on and reveal these so you knew that they weren't tainted by any of us. We had no other choice but to invite the one and only Adam McQueen on from Klue to come give the results firsthand. And Gab, I'd like to give you the honors of asking the most important question on our show one final time.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you very much for being here, Adam. So, are product marketers actually marketers?
That is the age-old question, friends. Honored to be here, stoked, and finally my journalism degree is coming to use here. My teachers used to always tell me to be an unbiased truth teller, and I can tell the truth here, not just the biased takes that you three have been spouting off all season. I can say that 76.7% of respondents said that yes, product marketers are in fact marketers. You are in the minority. The people don't agree with you. How is that landing with the three of you? I see a lot of hands on hips, or like a little kind of dismay, shock? What's going through your mind right now, Zach?
Adam, when you said minority, it feels like it's a double entendre here. So, it doesn't cut deeper than that.
You know how I feel? I feel like one of those founders who thought he had such a really good idea and then went and got all that VC money and built a product, and then no one actually wanted to buy it. That's how I'm feeling.
That's a good metaphor. I feel like I thought my product was going to be game changing, but then it's just a ChatGPT wrapper.
It goes to show, spicy takes can't push the boulder over the hill alone. We gotta accept our loss, and no, we didn't win this one.
Why? Why didn't we win? What's going on?
I'm like, Adam, we should be asking you. You're the one who works at Klue.
I do work at Klue. I'm not a product marketer. I'm a huge fan of product marketers. I get to talk to them all the time. Why do I think people at Klue product marketing does sit with marketing? So I'm going to be a part of the 76% here. I think when you look at what product marketing wears a lot of hats, insert cliche here, but being the voice of product to bring it to market, like that's where I see it being a marketing function. To get meta here, Eric was on an enablement session today, educating our go-to-market teams on what is coming out with the product. And without getting into like semantics there, like it is innately serving and supporting go-to-market teams and things that are going to be happening in the field with external facing collateral, all of those pieces. You could go either way on this, but that's where I see it as being a part of marketing. Plus, I selfishly want to say that I get to work with Eric and he's on our team.
The 76.7%, you just like being in that comfort zone. But I'm going to throw something back at you, though. You gave a great example. I'm going to give you an example where it might be on the other foot. Remember, oh man, what was it? A few weeks ago or even last week, I connected you and Grayson with Kevin and you were like, oh man, it's so weird having that connective tissue to the product team now. Like, marketing's on its own island, right? PM came in, put a little glue together between the two.
Lots forces.
So that's where I think the three of us who created the pod, that's where we fundamentally say, if I was only in marketing, then my boy Adam wouldn't have had that connective tissue over there to product.
Yeah. It's like you're nomads, but you need a home. You need a home where it's a little chicken and the egg too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the purpose of the question, but
we can all agree.
I don't know where
we can all agree in one thing though. Product marketing shouldn't sit underneath sales.
That's a fair point, yeah.
But
for sure.
Hey, even though I disagree with the poll, I wholeheartedly disagree with the poll. As product marketers, we're gonna listen to the audience and we're gonna hear it out. But the one thing I'm gonna add here is, I said this earlier this week, y'all, is that back in the day, Copernicus came into the Catholic Church, and he was like, "Yo, the planets revolve around the sun." No one vibes with that take, and look at where we're at today. So even though people may not agree,
well, if you ask Kyrie Irving, it seems like we're going back around again with that whole logic. So maybe your argument's just worked against you here.
No, Kyrie's saying the Earth is flat. Copernicus never said that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Maybe he's disproving
what shape it was. He just said it's in a circular motion.
Copernicus stayed in his lane. Copernicus just said, "Hey, the planets revolve the sun. I ain't gonna jump in that."
That's that. I know we're all historians and philosophers here, so at least we can settle on the fact that no matter what, it's good, healthy debate, and it's awesome that we can have one side to one thing and one side to the other, and not have a third world war based on the conversation. So I love this.
Yeah, and I disagree a bit with what you said earlier, Adam, that we're nomads, but we need a place to call home. But at the same time, I don't think we do. Like, ultimately, our home is the company, right? I think the best...
If it don't kick you out.
Yeah.
But I feel like the best PMs are not necessarily, I just care about marketing KPIs, or I just care about product KPIs or sales KPIs or whatever. I think it's a lot about, I want to make the organization successful. And I like the fact that I'm a nomad because I need stuff to prove that my job is relevant. I bring quick wins and results, but ultimately I'm able to discover a lot more of the nook and crannies of what's happening in hidden corners of the whole organization, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like that point.
Well,
Man,
I'm gonna
Adam, go ahead.
ask. Yeah, I just want to poke on that one. Then, is your argument then that like product marketing should be its own function, its own standalone function that sits and looks at marketing, sales, product as peers? Is that the argument, or is it that they should be this? They don't need to be attached to a label. You can't label product marketers. They can't be put in a box. What's the lane you're going with there?
That's a
Not
good question.
quite.
I would say.
Yes. Oh, go ahead. I would say something.
I would just say, and I'll pass you the ball afterward, man. But I would just say that the way I'm seeing it in business, if you don't put labels on things, it can get chaotic really quick. So I would not take the unlabeling route. I would maybe see it as, working with the peers, but the way I'm really seeing it is I don't know if strategy should be its own department. And I think that Tamara said it in the interview we did with her. But if strategy was a department, I feel like product marketing would live very well in that potential department.
A few points to add to that question, Adam. And the first part is not quiet. And the first part to that is when we had Colin on the conversation earlier this season, he mentioned how you look at job descriptions today. If you see a product marketing role, and for individuals who are within marketing and they read a job description in product marketing, they're like, that's not product marketing. They may lump in like content, demand gen. So that's like the end of that first part, is not to settle on marketing alone. And going into the second piece is that when we're saying we're not marketers, what we're inherently saying is that to lump product marketers as part of marketing, that's part of the problem as to why this function gets misunderstood. Of like, hey, like, you're product marketing, go find us leads. So when we can sit there and say we're not marketing, that gives us space to further explore what is product marketing. How does product marketing influence the broader marketing function too? And that gives you a better base, a more honest reflection of, okay, I'm a product marketer. If I'm being thrown in to do demand gen, I don't know it, but maybe I can learn it. Versus being thrown into demand gen and having this unfair expectation and assumption that you should know demand gen, you should know brand marketing. The current way of how product marketers are viewed within marketing today, it sets a lot of like PMMs up for failure rather than success. So by saying this point of view, it gives us more space and a more honest reflection and easier expectations to manage with our cross-functional stakeholders of what is product marketing and what is not product marketing.
I was going to say, that's like maybe it's not even like, a lot of these things are, okay, what are we titling this? But what really matters is how you operate, how you're viewed, and then the organization knows what value you bring. And it's like you mentioned there, like charter at the end. This is what we do and this is what we don't do, regardless of where we sit. Like establishing those ground rules and bringing clarity amongst the organization of how we will operate, I think is the most important thing, at least from an outsider's perspective.
Exactly.
I like it. And I feel like it's a lot about, even if 76% of people disagree with us, I feel like a lot of it is, and we've been hearing it with multiple guesses, but it's yes, but. There's always like that but aspect of things. And I feel like we did a good job with this journey, with trying out, having a podcast, of trying to define a little bit more what does product marketing or good product marketing look like. And I think this is a little bit towards having those labels well defined and making sure that we're not keeping the original idea of I look at a product marketing position in a specific organization, and when I take a look at another role or another post or whatever, it's day and night. I'm really proud of what we did. I would have loved those numbers to be like the opposite of 75% agreeing with us, but hey, we can't win them all.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to give one more last example. And Adam, you're going to like this. This comes back from back in the day when I was in sales. I was a first year AE, had a full book of accounts working in ed tech. I had this deal. Man, I was feeling hot about it. I'm sitting there. I already talked to the teachers about this. The teachers are loving the tool. They're like, oh, we got to talk to our principal. The principal's the chief decision maker. Present him the demo. He's, oh, I love it. Okay, cool. You walk out of that conversation. You're feeling good about yourself. You're like, all right, I know this deal's going to get signed. A few weeks later, the deal doesn't close. I'm shocked. I hit up the principal. I say, hey, man, what's going on? What happened? I spoke to, so the 3 of the 5 teachers that like your tool, they're moving to a different school. So they're not going to be here. The other 2 don't use it. So going back to the point that Gab mentioned earlier is that their nuances exist. There's nuances in marketing. There's different points of view. And to overlook those nuances, as I did in that deal, is a dangerous line of thinking. So we can say that like product marketers are marketers. But when nuances like this, when people are saying, but yes, but we also do this and this, that warrants a deeper discussion. That warrants a deeper exploration. Is that product marketers may be marketers, you agree, but there is maybe a potential where product marketers are more than marketers. And exploring that relationship increases the success of what you can do in your individual roles. And not lose a deal like I did back in 2016.
Y'all need to explore, like, it makes me think of specialization. What does a best-in-class product marketing function look like? And what are the specializations within that in each role? Because it does, like, again, there you mentioned is like the but this is okay. Let's see if you had, let's play like you got, it's like fantasy football. So you can draft your team. What are the roles you'd build to build your ultimate product marketing team and what their specializations would be? That would be cool to hear.
Like the dream team, but
yeah,
like
what are the dream teams? So you can give more like clarity on what those roles are. It's not just a product marketer doing freaking everything. Say, no, this is where we're going to focus, and these are the roles to give them focus within that focus.
I know I won't put Shaq on the
We should do a draft. You should do a draft against each other. Have a bunch of titles, have a bunch of roles of folks.
I love that idea.
That would be a great idea.
Oh, yeah. With the NFL draft.
And we bet money on it.
In 2 months, that might be a good idea. Save that one in the bank, boys. And you know what, Adam, I want to say one more thing. This is more of an ego boost for you. So what Zach was saying earlier is elevate maybe product marketing more than a marketer. What I've noticed, especially like in my 6 weeks here, I can never claim I'm a channel expert. You know what I mean? What Jacqueline does, no, never asked me to do that. Even what you do, right? I have no, like, your expertise in the channel is something that a product marketer either doesn't have because that's just not the things they got to do, jobs to be done, or they don't have the bandwidth to flex that muscle. So I also like to call out that, like, your knowledge in those channels and that specific like function of marketing is something that no product marketer can ever claim.
And for context, y'all, they're talking about Klue.
Yeah. Got oil and grease in this machine. Things running. All right. Then that wraps it up for the results on whether product marketing actually is marketing. And your boys here at We're Not Marketers have lost.
Have been humbled.
Yeah.
Dare to be different, gentlemen.
Hey, right. Difference comes with risk, and we see it firsthand. We saw it firsthand. All right. So now he gave us the results. We know what happened now. Is this where we shut it down? We shut it down. So y'all heard it first now. It confirmed the suspicions that product marketers are actually marketers. So there's not much for us else to say. It is a very sad day. Myself, when we first launched this episode, like we said at the beginning of this conversation, it was a very hot take. I had to move down to San Diego because San Francisco just couldn't handle the heat. I think Gab, Eric, I think y'all had some significant life changes because of this podcast.
Yeah, on my end, yeah. Like thinking about the fact that all of my like background is in marketing, and now I'm in product marketing, and now we realize that product marketing is actually marketing based on those results. Just makes me feel weird inside. I still try to ponder what is happening. And I just turned 30 as well. So it's like a quarter life crisis all over again. So I'm leaving for a month in South America, and I don't know if I'm coming back.
My man, you said you turned 30. You said a quarter life crisis. I'm hoping you see 120, man. I'm hoping you see 120 years old.
Thanks, man. I'll do my best. I'll drink a yerba mate and I'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think I've just had a kid, for those who don't know. My first son arrived a few weeks ago. And I don't think there's a whole lot of explanation other than that, but I will say that hearing these results, it makes me think that I need to put my priorities where they need to be at this time. But yeah, I think that's all I got to say there.
What you're saying, Eric, sounds very synonymous when a politician gets caught up in a scandal. If I'm going to spend my time with my family and reflect on my life decision. Yeah, I think us getting these answers, I wouldn't equate it to Watergate by any means, but yeah,
we've lost the election is what these are.
We got some reflection to do here. I think this is the last time you'll hear from us, unless you want to re-listen to prior episodes, but the answer's out the door. The answer's out now. Product marketers are marketers, so not much else to us to do.
Thanks for coming. To all of our product marketers out there, thank you for coming to the last episode of We're Not Marketers.
Oh, no, the title's changed now. We're marketers. Based off the result.